How's it going today?
Do what? Oh. Just got out of RFP.
How are you doing?
Yeah, hi. Haven't seen you in forever. How's the world?
Yeah? You're still going on 30, but you're still
What, very serious?
the negotiations about things.
Oh, right. And how early it starts when you have like 3 hours of being late.
Oh, just wait. You know, right now the negotiations are very simple. Now, you don't pick democracy or on the parents. No,
Depends on the instance.
Okay.
I really try and make collaborative decisions, but there's a definite, you know, end point.
So I told her from the start that I wanted to do that.
Yep.
And she's like, no, but it's
What are you going to do about it?
you want the reason for everything. And it's like, yep, you're not going to want to do that.
That's your job.
There's a reason why our parents said, call Tom your mother or
Yeah.
I'm your
Well,
father.
I'm starting to get that. These 3.
See you on the roof. As soon as this shit is done, to the roof. As soon as it's done, to the roof.
Can't make sense.
I'll come down in a second.
Where's he going? You watching this?
There's so many wheels in here right now.
There are.
There's enough room for a pin count.
Question is, the wheels split? No, no, you won't be able to get rid of
As early as we can, possibly after the tuition. Definitely before we're out of both.
Yeah, but it's not.
You're going to teach these papers? I know you got lines in your paper. I don't do lines. Can I teach these papers now?
Hey, Doug, you need to turn in your ballot from round 1.
Oh, snap. Where did I put it? Oh, it's right here up
Who
here.
did you vote for, Ben?
Jamie.
Okay. Turn in that ballot. Thank God you.
You're like, you ought to lose that bad boy if we lost. It's okay.
Yo, I don't know where I put it, yo.
Go to ballot. You got a new ballot.
I can use this one right here. Watch out. Let me get this one.
Well, you can just fill it out on paper, it doesn't matter.
You got a dumpster dive for a ballot?
I mean, it's a ballot. It just don't got a name on it.
It's not the right ballot.
Actually, it may be a CE's room. That's what it's gonna be.
Yep. They don't care. They just want a ballot.
All right.
I told you that forgetting your ballot thing ain't gonna work. You're still making jokes. I'm trying to.
What's Bella's sister's name? Bella. Is there only y'all two?
Oh, Bella and Kim.
Kim?
Yeah.
Hey, what's Sarah's call sign, yo?
on Wheeler.
Dio something.
Dio Wheeler. Yeah, Adam Dio, Sarah Wheeler. Be like donkey.
Who you say do like donkey? Like donkey farm.
Yeah. Shoot, but I'll be ready. Trying to get a jump drive.
Now, we're trying to get the vote on which of these teams gets an automatic loss for making Calvin wait. So I have a couple suggestions.
Take the ADA. Automatic loss.
Does anybody have an extra pen?
I got you. What color you need?
Anything besides red?
Do it matter how much ink it put out?
No for this round.
There's a lot of pin spec, man. What?
Hey man, look, I got pins for days. You said not red?
Yeah.
Oh, I was about to give you a big compliment. You didn't catch like a debater.
Actually, here, take this one. I don't think that much ink. You're working on your hand game, dog.
Yeah, other than the second time, than the first time. He might redeem himself. All right, let me hear what I need to spend my night cutting instead of sleeping.
Is this a new app?
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be.
You can always tell it's new. You get that little look at his face as he walks around the trunk.
Like, yeah.
Like nobody has seen it out.
Oh, it's the highlight one.
Will knows it's talking about.
You can go ahead. Alright, you ready?
Academic spaces have left countless holes in the web of narration of the Afro-diasporic experience in slavery. The narration of the diaspora leaves the question of black male rape during the slavery unanswered, and more problematically unasked. Several factors like the lack of biological evidence, self-imposed homophobia, and the Academy's protection of white womanhood has contributed to the dismissal of the possibility of black male sexual abuse, regardless of all the evidence that we have of Spanish slave code is, and its Iberian roots as foster. In 2011, black manhood under slavery was violated, or wasn't less easily spoken of then and now. These is the sexual exploitation of enslaved men, the historical sexual assault of boys and men and boys mostly articulated by Ramon Garcia, since I argue that the individuals of Native American third sex and birds are frequently prisoners of war used by sex and emasculated in the context of slavery. Literally, scholars have shown the sexual abuse of men was part of the Spanish system. In Cuba, the sexual exploitation of male slaves has largely gone unexplored, and widely variety of reasons. Male victims of slave rape left behind no biological record in the form of offspring, as well as the prevalent homophobia in traditional Latin American societies would have prevented men from telling their stories. The given sexual passivity was particularly stigmatized in so far as it was seen as entailing a loss of masculinity, turning to the sexual abuse and exploitation of enslaved men. Built upon the perspective of this, recent literature challenged the view of black men as hypersexual and white women as passive and asexual. The rape of slave men has gone on unacknowledged because of the current and historical tendencies to define rape by gender lines, making both victims of perpetration reluctant to discuss male rape. The sexual assault of the men dangerously points out the crack to the marble face of patriarchy that asserts men as penetrators into the opposition of the penetrable within homosexual children and all other adult women. Now, there is an oxymoronic cultural context in the face of blackness regarding the Negro-phobic logic of black as animal and distasteful versus the Negrophilia surrounding blackness and promiscuously lusty. The image of the lusty black phallus calls your attention to where the rise of black fetishization came from. Antebellum domestic slave trade indicates that black men were eroticized in a particular way, specifically in the context of how they were hung. This is Foster in 2011. The sexual invitation of enslaved black men took place within a cultural context that fixated on black men bodies within both desire and horror cultures. It's not to cultural and circumscribe the bodies of enslaved men and women on the one hand, voicing repulsions of African, framing them as beauty, ugly, or appealing, while other hand viewing them as hypersexual. All Americans also saw erotic possibilities and beauty in black bodies. Some slave masters fetishized and objectified women of color, understanding that asexual abuse was about power, not simply express sexual desire. Such testimony raises the possibility that in the patriarchal society, that sexual abuse of nearly white men could enable white women to enact radical fantasies of domination over white men, within the acknowledgement that their victim's body was legally black and enslaved, subject to women's control. Anglo-American culture long felt a fascination with the penises of black men and projecting both desire and jealousy upon unobjectified and disembodied black fellas. I am assured was a surprising person to see that the demand black boys who there hung numerous abolitionist images also fixated on the black male body as perfection, highlighting muscular bodies and in almost pornographic detail exposed buttocks and aim during unjust abuse and degradation at the end, and the image of whipping exposed black male flesh was a homoerotic change, one that mirrored that nearly obsessed fixation of whipping dude enslaved women. It is also worth noting that this despite the homoerotic nature of these accounts suggested by their content, women, they of the backbone of the abolitionist movement are readily consume such literature. Such methods undoubtedly serve to demonize and define the population of black men, but also have raised radical possibility for some women the desirability of such men as highly sexual and accomplished, a model of masculinity that highly power-stricken and mastery rather than one of moderation and self-control. Depiction of sexual prowess in the myth of black rape has constituted one form of sexual abuse. This myth contributes to the legal and political disenfranchisement of black men from the earliest days of the Republic. Now, black male sexual abuse was foundation to the creation of white womanhood, whereas white women were able to satisfy their sexual desire for experimentation with black men while simultaneously projecting an innocent sexual pure image onto white civil society. This is fostered in 2011. The traditional denial of white women's sexuality was secured to the obscure the view that white women were sexually assaulted and exploited and enslaved men, despite the legal and cultural polarization against sex between black men and white women in the early American occurrences were far from making them presumably affectionate and long-term relationship, but we consider giving the context to say the apparently affectionate relationship between enslaved women and white men. So basically the context of absolute power over life and limb, and therefore must be viewed in context. The evidence more clearly points out to the instance of coercion and sexual exploitation that should lead us to conclude that white men were not the sole perpetrators of sexual coherence or the sexual abuse of enslaved black men and women. Here we see the direct threats of indirect manipulation with the more subtle threat of violence accumulation, some of the relationships, even the physical contact, and also that Halo mentioned one by the made of a request to visit white women here may have wielded the purpose to a means of coercing enslaved men to help with them. That is to say that women have been paid for their sexual service to white women, but simply for sexual assault instead of men over whom the authority be experienced within less fear exposure because he was traumatized by it, and daughters of planters who formed their sexual relationships were simply taking advantage of their position within these slaves system, having sex with their white counterparts in the insular war of the white Panzer class. One of the ways that some southern women have protected their public virtue was by transcending relationships with black men. Now in Haiti we find the similar anti-black desire of the corporal conquest of the Negro boy and sex tourism. Black boys become disposable sexual objects that exist as extra legal. Within the rise of the United States military and its global expansion came a rise in the inherent need for eroticized black sexual objects. Haiti is a prime example, specifically how white male soldiers with sexually engaged black boys on the island. This legacy follows the tourism industry, where citizens of the global north dock the ports of Latin America and the Caribbean to consume black bodies as a natural resource. This is taped in 2011, a post-colonial United States where the dollar was a place of extreme poverty and the disposition of the baby. The liberty ships with the paradise comes in price. We see the necropolitics of sex tourism. The sexual is always already inspired by necropolitical power of the grids and the king corporal conquest, colonial domination, and death state. Necro power shapes black bodies as disposable, as always already goes embedded into the social and material life of Haiti. Sex tourism also faces young black men's bodies as disposable, even in the face of love, because their lives do not register within the realm of the legal status. The strange primitivity of these deaths as life gets back to the normal. The white woman also, as soon as his body is removed from the beach, Haiti has a long history of creation in the Anglo-U.S. imaginary is a place for travel and consumption of the bodies of racialized, forbidden others. The Caribbean has been repeatedly imagined and narrated as a tropical paradise in which the land types, resources, and bodies and cultures of its inhabitants are open to invade and occupy, brought, move, use, viewed, and consumed in various ways. The Caribbean is the location of escape tourism and the site of danger-form criminals, unsustainable governments, disease, and desperate bold people. This Anglo-American view of the Caribbean is based on historical slavery and colonialism. Now engaging this genealogy of sexual encounters and modernity is the work of an Afro-diasporic reading practice, a new way of our commodified bodies relating to our commodity bodies through the Black and Latino diaspora. This is a memorial in 2013 when we recognize that the empty spaces prevalent in Chicano, Latino, and Black feminists and their lack of a true Afro-diasporic element that highlight the importance of difference of fluidity intermediary and unrecognized spaces where the Afro-Latina body is located. We must access an Afro-diasporic reading practice that can facilitate our understanding of an Afro-Latina experience and identity in this fluid body that transgresses various spaces and time. This methodology of an Afro-diasporic reading practice that articulates a fluid positionality that allows us a space for much Afro-Latino subjectivity throughout transnational and transcendent spaces constantly delineates such current categories of racialized, torturized bodies as the first types of colonization. She materializes the queerness of the black body, alluding to its fluidity that at times takes in one of the waters that are transported. She suggests that we think of queerness or fluidity as an Afro-diasporic element. Queer is not the sense of gay or same-sex loving identity waiting to be exacerbated from the ocean floor, but as a praxis of resistance. Queer in the sense of baking disruptions to the balance of normative order and powerfully so connecting ways that commodify flesh. We're never supposed to loving your own kind when your kind was supposed to be ceased to exist, forging interpersonal connection that counteracted the imperial desire for African living. That to make up a fluid positionality becomes a method of resistance and liberation that recognizes difference and attends to the violence and rupture experience through the diaspora. And Afro-diasporic reading practice does not allow us to fall into confrontation. It's essentialist and major contradiction, and instead allows for water to flow into the empty spaces most simply, or challenges to be like the ocean, spreading outward, running through bays and fingers while remaining heavy, cinching and forcing against a can at that moment that we are achieved through kind of fluidity, positionality, we challenge what is already established and move into creating an Afro-Latino feminist theoretical framework that is recognizing and emerges when its own voice within the trends. Now, this is a process of Black Latino self-making within the academy. This is Zamora in 2013. But what parties are accused for was take this question as a political departure. One would think it's possible to reform the Black and Chicano feminists and theoretical frameworks to locate themselves as framework of women's spaces with an Afro-Latino woman can now locate themselves Chicano feminists throughout. Just not take Black women into account, all otherwise that our patriarchal or discourse on racial humanity contesting the delusionary notion of multiracial utopian with European indigenous African descendants to live interesting defects of colonialism, slavery, African Latinos, the immense recognition of historical present contribution of African American descendants since the end of the transatlantic slave trade, but also there's a precursor of Latin American identity which today finding to find the Afro-Latino woman with the Black feminist bodies and fertility has to do justice or blackness that does not open itself up to a vast inclusion of African descendants outside of the United States space for Afro-Latino in the United States occupies an undefined space that result from ways in which the race can be constructed in the U.S. because of the contributions of the institutions fail. Not many Afro-Latinos often must seen as Black American, known by other Latinos, the invisibility of their identity and their growth. She's the Afro-Latino woman and must employ.
I also used to have a different flash drive. This one stopped working. Thank you.
Process?
We'll take a second break.
All right.
Yeah. Alright, it's fine. Alright, stop right. It was like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Alright, ready for cross-sex?
Yeah.
One first.
Go ahead.
What does it mean to self-make?
Well, our piece of some more evidence is kind of contextualized. This is the way that our self-making occurs. He talks about how currently in academic discussions, she discusses how currently in academic spaces, there's stuff like Black studies, and there's stuff like Chicana studies, and there's stuff like Latino studies. But a self-making that we do is introducing Afro-diasporic knowledges, which is a process of self-making because currently in the academy,
What problems were the academy founded upon?
What problems?
Yeah, why was the academy problematic?
Well, we have isolated one instance why the academy is problematic, but it does not include the voices or the it does not have a critical theorization of the way that Afro-Black diasporic subjects exist, and we say that that's problematic.
So it's just problematic because it doesn't take into account all diaspora studies?
No, that it does not have a particular language to discussing Afro-diasporic men and women or people who are familiar with
Why
this.
does that particular language not exist?
Oh, because we have capitalized on Black studies and Latino studies or Chicana studies. But
Who has capitalized on those studies?
it could be white academics. It could also be like the exclusion of Black people in the academy, talking about other Black people in Latin America. It's a combination of both.
Okay, take card. Post-colony of the United States, where the dollar was a king, a place of extreme poverty, despotism, and the baby Dr. Valier.
Sorry, can you, which card?
The Tate 11 card, fourth one down. It
Yeah.
goes on to say that the sexual is always inscribed into the necropolitical power that creates implicating the corporal conquest, colonial domination, and death. Those are a lot of big, large things that are hard to get rid of. What is the affirmative's resistance to this movement, and how are colonial conquest, colonial domination, and death resolved?
Well, our argument is that colonial domination to Afro-diasporic subjects is able to be created within the status quo because of the way that they are particularly sexualized and how Black men are become hypersexualized, but they also...
And why have they become hypersexualized?
Oh, our piece of Tate evidence is specific to the Afro-diaspora, but our piece of Foster evidence talks about how within colonialism, Black men have been hypersexualized because of specifically white womanhood, that the white woman was able to go and rape the Black man and eroticize him, but was also able to go and have sexual relations with his her white counterpart, and that's how civil society has constructed the white male as hypersexualized.
So they regarded women as an object to take advantage of, much as to cast downward upon women. Is that a correct characterization?
No, our argument is that white women were key to the construction of white civil society and of
White women?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
fine.
I see.
You're not gonna ban an anniversary. You're not gonna ban that.
Yeah, we have 9 yeah.
Oh, I just need internet. Why can't military?
I know. It is so sad.
So, I don't have the other one, I'll go grab it.
All my tax, all that tax money I
Jump
pay.
at Wall.
Brother can't get around it.
I'm telling you.
Jump at Wall, he goes and gets the stamp. Then you're gonna show ban our last room. What's the ballot? I need to off some response for that. Thank you.
Whatever, yo. Everybody's still prepping nowadays.
What's Kate's first name?
What's who?
What's Kate's first name?
Yeah, because I'm just gonna, I don't even want to know that.
Shirley.
I'm just gonna need all these.
Cannot be Shirley.
Shirley.
Uh-oh, he knows something. Y'all messed up.
He's literally just trying to, it's all an ethos thing. Like, if he makes that face, then we will start speculating about what he potentially knows, which is infinitely, and always our
Y'all already got it.
Or
Pulling it out.
I knows who was on Shirley Kate's dissertation committee.
Sorry, though.
Yo, man, where your beads at?
Bye-bye. Oh, I'm left at home.
Weren't feeling beaded for this tournament? Just weren't feeling it for this tournament.
No, I just, I was running behind, and, I was also riding my motorcycle, so I didn't want to worry about
Fair enough. Yeah, I gotta get mine. I gotta restring mine. A little too big.
it. I just tried that after a while.
Which team are you responsible for here?
CE and AB. Varsity.
You got the good teams.
They just beat AB. What do you mean we got the good team?
I said you got
What
the good
is
teams.
this fucking trouble?
This is his reward for having to deal with me. In his first year coach, having to coach me. For having to deal with all the random crap we did.
Hey, while we're waiting on him to come back, can I get the sites for the 1AC?
Damn.
That's all I want.
What about flowing? You can write down the sites.
I got the phone right here too. Foster, Tate. I missed the other one, and then Zamora. I got the rest of them. But I don't know the first names, I don't know the name of the article, see, that's too much work.
Okay, fair enough.
I just want to know the article
No,
names.
you actually fell, then I got your back.
So I can read the whole article, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's real.
That's all it is.
Yes, here's a tape though.
Oh. And you know what, we need to
The
talk
other
about
day
that.
I found a video of you on quarters of CETA. I
What,
watched
me?
a little bit of it.
Ugh.
You had your
Oh, wait, no, wait, well, we won that debate.
Oh, you did?
We were asked, yeah, we won that debate.
Is this the Binghamton CETA?
Well, that's when I debated Peter, y'all.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah.
You won that at Binghamton?
No, we lost in semis. Ugh.
No, I
To
know.
Binghamton?
No, next.
It was in a hotel.
We lost to K-State.
Oh, yeah.
They won the tournament.
Wait, Bantam CrossFit won the Binghamton CETA? Oh, no, he lost.
We lost the finals, K-State.
Right.
Same thing, we lost.
Yeah, it's only when he's drunk when he says he won to see that. He didn't actually win to see that.
I know, yeah.
He probably like, I won CETA because he felt like he won the debate, but he lost.
No, I know.
Got it.
Yeah.
Ready?
After a while.
See, it was the throw that allowed him to have a better catch.
Oh, it's like that now.
See how you coming for me? I'm still in for 2 more debates, though. I mean,
Burning up political capital day one.
Yeah, he's coming for me.
But yeah, that should just.
If it hits your hands, you're supposed to catch it.
That's the NFL rule.
Oh, so let's see what
I'll pick up my lineup.
It's in the air.
I know, I need to do mine too, but I'm gonna do it tomorrow night. I'm undefeated in my league right now too, so
I'm doing horrible this year. Very upsetting.
feeling kind of good.
I had AP as you know, first round pick.
Yeah, that sucked.
John's really upset.
I'm sorry about that.
We're glad you're back.
Still intact. I was very pleased.
Oh no, you would have left that North Bay room, would have been out with that.
I made $50 for no reason.
They saw us at that.
You made $50 for no reason.
Yeah.
Is it on?
I picked up Shane Vereen off the waiver wire, and my man was talking all mad. It's like, you put Freddie Shane Vereen? He's not getting any carries. Jason Gray and Brandon Mulder are gonna get all the carries that night, and he's not gonna score 1 point.
Larry Bird was there for a minute.
And I said, I guarantee you Chamberlain's gonna get some points because it's against the Jets. And Bill doesn't play that, you know, let the unproven people get the main touches when it's against the Jets. And he's like, okay, $50, but you have to give me 6 to 1 off. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
And then Shane put up a 23 spot.
It's bad. Should be like, I just turned it into sites.
You got the site?
Should be like 1AC right now.
Word.
You can get back to tomorrow. I got enough fun.
Damn. He's all nice like that.
Yo, he coached me my last year. I gotta be nice.
Well, you could just be nice because, you know, that's what you do, but.
That's it.
He didn't coach me, but I want to make him send me those damn sites.
Just tap my email address.
You know, we both gonna be up tonight doing the same damn thing.
Yo, we ready?
Yeah. There's only one objective of this.
Alright, let's roll. I'd like to get through the next one.
The affirmative papers over the ongoing war of the non-human animal, any cessation of violence under the current logic is only momentary to even moments of apparent tenderness and compassion become grotesque symptoms of a corrupted order. This Bell and 11. The factility and expert relationship to animals exposed by other generations of children must be indoctrinated, perspectives must be fashioned, and strange the world any cessation of violence under the current logic is only momentary to and armistice whenever appeasing moments of apparent tenderness become grotesque symptoms of a corrupted order so long as the sway life is permitted to stand and same perverse arbitrariness will sway the society which doing millions of animals to unimaginable suffering. They lose apparent non-violence are rarely possible between atrocities. The victims are interchangeable. Each of them can replace the murder in the act works to include the abstract, the vulnerable body in need of protection back into the human, recreating the anthropocentric brain of modern leftist politics. Our alternative must proceed. Any shift in politics or recreation of species violence is inevitable. That's Clarkson 8. Left hegemony remains anthropocentric, the universal, and that which is the abject from the universal is almost always presented and understood. These debates as revolving around the human. The abject are human beings who have been excluded from the universal. Non-human animals are figured by the universal. It's important first to understand how deeply anthropocentric much of our thinking is. Contemporary debates surrounding identity politics, universalism take place within the same anthropocentric horizon. The subject is the unavowedly human locus of this foundation, unless and until the shift in thought takes place, posthumous thought blend of undermining saves it, becoming another form of anthropocentrism and subjectivism, and the black body can be complicit in oppression and suffering of others is not naturally or inevitably a position of objection that can be free from further analysis. Both our position as northern and flesh-consuming bodies means that even black humans must confront the privilege that this provides, as Jones and 10 ladies and suffering that have become markers of black identity, describing racist suppression of black bodies all over again, and coming to desire dead bodies within they have unwittingly become complicit in the destruction of their own bodies and the bodies of other animals, other people, other black bodies. Racially oppressed minorities in America are collectively complicit, usually unknowingly being oppressed. Santos rights off the privileges, rights to the privileges we take for granted as humans living in the global north, and the affirmative steers away the originary human-animal divide. Make civil society shed and coloniality possible as Pugliese in 13. Many feel self compared to the suffering of the non-animal planet of human comparison to an animal that has come to be slurred comparison is difficult one to face, especially for the descendants of slaves or slave owners. Western society develops systems of human slavery that are closely parallel to humans, treatments of animals, including shackles, auction, branding stalls, and pens. Biopolitics is informed by a parallel history of species system that extends back to the very establishment of human civil societies premised on animal slavery. Socialization of human culture is nothing other than becoming livestock. There's not a political constitution or politics, but the principle of domestication of wild animal politics presupposes livestock, the domestication of animals like the groundwork for West American thinking and European and American racial theories that call for the conquest and exploitation of lower races and colonial movements informed by species and technologies of animal slavery were effectively drawn upon the development of modern slave plantation of Europe. Prehistorical animal slave practices are woven later be exported out to the colonies. Woven and root cause as well as reverse causal solvency. The all-shattered civil society embraced the bonds of black oppression as well as that of animals. That's Spiegel in 96. A common source factor, one of the factors may cost the life of the slave, but systems of oppression share the same against since they're built around the same basic relations. There are many disturbing similarities between the treatment in the hands of white people and the treatment of animals. Its utterly impressions are in our minds rather than prioritize victim suffering, comparing the sufferings of animals to that of less assessment belief the species is to deny our similarities to animals is to deny and undermine our very own power when both blacks and animals are viewed as being oppressed, fully cruelties perpetuated upon them take similar forms of domination of animals. Centuries before black slavery in America began was a prototype of the subjugation of blacks. The ethic of human domination removed animals from the sphere of human concern. The Portuguese marked slaves we do sheep with hot iron. Both blacks and animals were driven to a state of total psychic defeat. Advances towards releasing animals from a domination will surplus and oppression of blacks. We undermine the psychological structures inherent in society, which seem to create and foster masses and evaluate impact solvency based on who solves the root cause. Proximate causes are useless and only replicate their harms. That's Sean Wong in '89. Information is not sufficient to establish that humanity has propensity for questions to demand the consideration of the ultimate cause. What is important is not specific differences in behavior, but why that behavior exists. Most tend to kill it with proximate factors. The study of proximate factors involves less time and is more convenient than comparative approaches in terms of disciplinary approach and tends to decode ultimate structures. We can advance fundamental understanding of humanity's propensity for the challenges to discern how ultimate causes interact with changing environments to produce proximate causes of emphasis on ultimate causality leads us to identity and to identify proximate causes and addictions to flesh floods cause global structural violence against people of color. That's Harper and 10. We're hurting ourselves exploiting and enslaving others non-human animals and humans in a way that is similar to colonialism. Human beings and non-human animals suffer greatly because our first world addiction to egocentric consumption of hate that has been enslaved and eventually killed, mutilated, and processed to become part of America's WNO's breakfast sandwich production is openly sewing and contaminating the world's water supply. At least 3.5 billion people will be struggling with water shortages by 2025. Those who are already oppressed will be hurt the most by environmental crises or consumption, oppressing and causing suffering to people who look just like you, poor, and people of color are much higher chance and likelihood of suffering and dying simply because they don't have rightful access to clean water. Pandemic, colonialism, structural violence, international war, environmental collapse, and the unimaginable slaughter of 55 billion sentient beings every year. That's Niebuhr in 13. The exploitation of large numbers of domesticated animals promoted large-scale lines of infections, zoonotic diseases, mutated spread, eventually causing deaths of countless humans and other animals. While this enormous level of violence and death was enabled by domestication, is also driven by this process of possession of large numbers of horses, cows, pigs, sheep, goats, other animals became desirable. The bloodshed and plunder in Latin America made possible by domestication were essential for the rise of the capitalist system and the ensuing imperialist policies and practices. Indigenous people throughout the world suffered death, displacement, exploitation, and hunger. U.S. policy in Latin America generated an enormous level of such violence. The decision of U.S. leaders to promote capitalist expansion in the region by increasing human exports resulted in large-scale violence, unpredictable poverty, exploitation. The distance has hundreds of millions of indigenous and other village people are landless and impoverished, exploited under the U.S. style diet and other areas of the world cause chronic disease, enormous amounts of precious fresh water fuel, fossil fuel, possibility of using marine forests, destroy, build, and expand the global hamburger culture. The destruction of exploitation program of domesticated animals as food and resources is on course to create a scarcity of resources that will lead to international warfare, food shortages, climate change, and influence the pandemic every year. More than 55 billion sentient beings experience normal levels of deprivation, and maybe further cruelly killed more than 16,000 entire species of other animals in front of extinction. The gratuitous violence can only be fully understood through the reduction of black slaves to animality and genealogy that trips back to Aristotle. That's Roberts and 8. Slaves were treated like animals back then. Both of them passed to Americans and during their forced visits. The staggering disregard for human life in the initial stages of American slavery can be fully understood only by considering the evaluation of the appropriate African slave to sheer animality, the Aristotelian reduction of the slave to human property, the subsequent aquatic animals and domesticated animals, and absolute subordinates. The African slaves can be treated in any way necessary to provide the press practical results. We have evidence of this as the founding moment of the Middle Passage, as Robertson 8. What is set into motion by Aristotle, the theory of slavery, the idea that the inferior slave may refer little from domestic animals served as a way of mitigating the merciless treatment of the slaves. The first slave snatched from the Atlantic coast after brought to Portugal. They were pursued and kidnapped by Portuguese sailors, and an operation was described by eyewitnesses as being hunted down like wild animals. The Americas consumed billions upon billions of slaves, and the sheer magnitude on human animal slaughter represents the effect like Premier coherent a second, and I'll get this started. In the United States alone, around 9.5 billion animals are killed per year. The amounts, that amounts to 250 cows per hour and 266 chickens per second. The violence against the violence against farm animals, the most pervasive form of institutionalized violence, due to the humanist parameters for typical framings of violence, is only certain forms of violence enter the realm of legal sanctions. Again, that's legal in 96. Each year in the United States alone, at least 30 million non-human animals die at the hands of scientists, one animal every second of the day. And corporeal politics are inevitably brought about the dominant order of strike politics of micro-lactis can never achieve emancipation is equal to 90. The aesthetic from the beginning double-edged on the one hand, it figures as a generally emancipatory force of the community subjects and flanked by incestuous and fellow feeling rather than law. Each safeguarded its unique, particularly well-bounded at the same time in social harmony. On the other hand, the aesthetic signified internalized repression, inserting social power more deeply into the very bodies of those that subjugates and so operating as a supremely effective mode of political hegemony to lend fresh significance to bodily pleasures, if only for the purpose of colonizing them more efficiently. It's always been risk foregrounding and intensifying of beyond one's control. Deep subjectivity is just what the ruling word desires, and exactly what is most cause fear of the aesthetic is dangerous because it's something the body which can revolt against power which describes, and the impulse could only be eradicated by extirpating along the capacity to authenticate power itself. Yeah, we'll stop there.
Oh, you didn't read the case cards?
I read the first one.
Okay, awesome. Why is it key to, you read an argument about how you should evaluate who solves the root cause?
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Well, the argument is that proximate causes only replicate harms. It's important to understand the roots in order to
What's a proximate cause?
in more immediate situations like a immediate oppression
Okay,
Like,
so
somebody can be
then how
oppressed
does,
that doesn't
let's
appear to be
say, let's say
oppressed.
you have violence experience on you in the status quo, like, does an
That would be a
example
proximate cause.
right, so how do you solve that proximate cause?
Well,
By
the argument is that
solving the-
addressing the root causes changes that causes mind sessions. Like our advocacy is more explanatory in that regard.
Okay, sure. Well, why this piece of evidence that you read on case doesn't use the word blackness, but is tagged as the starting politics of with the marker of blackness can never achieve emancipation. What does that mean?
The argument is that corporeal politics
What's
are
that?
co-opted, like the politics that start from the body, from like identitarianism.
Okay.
As far as like rational identitarianism goes,
Yeah.
they end up being co-opted by dominant orders.
Okay. How is your position? How do you not get co-opted?
Because we're not rationalistic corporeal politics.
So what about the app is rationalistic corporeal politics?
Well, the affirmative is based in understandings of like expanding identities, right?
Right. So okay. So can you explain to me the historical process as to our app is also about Latino populations. Do you have any arguments to talk about Latino?
We think that our root cause arguments are explanatory of both.
So
That's
Latinos,
like the Pugliese 13.
so Latinos are also made into animals.
It's like all coloniality is premised in the human divide. And like we can read more specific evidence in the block.
Okay, I get what you're saying. What is this argument about how its foundation is the moment of the middle passive?
Oh yeah, you mean the Rocker State evidence?
Yeah.
The idea of slaves or inferior persons as being comparable to animals was the logic that was used by the persons who began chattel slavery.
Are animals blackened?
I'm sorry?
Are animals blackened?
It's the other way around.
So black people are animalized.
Right.
So if
Well, the argument is that it creates a sense of fungibility. So our bell evidence and the majority of the evidence that we've read in the 1NC brings into account the concept of fungibility and looking at things in terms of their value towards yourself in the way that you can look down on them or like downcast them.
Mm-hmm.
So our links are specific to fungibility.
okay, what is the alternative?
The alternative as we 1NC. Do you want the text?
I just want to know how
I'll
to
let you
articulate
We need to end all hierarchies and obscure the way we relate to the non-human world.
Okay, gotcha.
I have a question. How do you end all hierarchies?
We think that we're more explanatory of the way that hierarchies are created. Through
So,
that, we're able to better address them.
Okay, explanation with the link to
Yeah, that's one of the terms. I mean, the entire way is ways that we engage being better and better with this. That's one of the
I think if we expand the SEC, that's competitive. Expand the SEC, that's competitive.
Expand the SEC.
SEC destroys academia for the sake of football.
They got a whole lot of other problems right now too, so.
How do you thought Mississippi or Mississippi State makes it in?
That would be nice. That would be nice.
So hopeful for those.
Playoffs, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Marshall, and some other random team.
Marshall.
Yeah, you know Marshall's not gonna give you love from the committee.
I know.
That's gonna be one of those, okay, write in the statement, what statement? Write in the statement that we considered Marshall heavily before we decide to go in a different direction.
Then they go to whichever bowl and smash a power conference team.
Yep. And then power conference say, well, they didn't care, they wanted in a major
Hey,
bowl.
Boston College, can I get the sites to the 1NC?
Sure.
Yeah, do you want them right now or later?
Can we do it after the debate? Or do you want them right now?
I'm gonna leave after this.
Oh, okay, sure.
I'm not judging, so.
Yeah, you just wanna see two AC tracks.
Yeah, there you go. Is that what it is?
I'm doing the same thing, so I'm not gonna feel bad about you.
Oh, shit.
I have to tell my team when we meet after this round, because when you're judging the open round and you're JV and ops teams get out, you don't get to see them.
Don't toss it to me, I can get it.
Oh,
You see them for 5 minutes, and they want to know what they'll do next debate. They want to know what you do.
Not as maybe like, yeah, that's part of, that's part of it, though, right? It's like, like, you never know what's gonna happen, but you always know something bad coming. You know what I mean?
7:30.
The best of novice is when like, a position is conceded, so you should win the debate. And then the 2-R, they kick that position.
Yeah, they'll go for it.
And they go for the position that they got the least amount of offense on. And they're like, well, we didn't talk about it because they didn't talk.
Yeah, when I was coaching, I got all Orwellian. I mean, they didn't care because they're trusting little souls, but I was like, I felt a little bit like, should I let her choose the 2-R based on them? Nah. I told her what she thought. Like, you going for this?
That's functionally what you guys start doing, though. Let's go for this position.
I'm just gonna do that. I think that's like,
Thank you.
the other more education. And I just said, fuck it. I'm gonna be 4 turns behind everybody else. So, yeah.
Took you that long to go find some chips.
Oh, yeah.
Did you wash your hands up? Did you now eat the chips or not?
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't wash his hands when he was in high school.
Man, how you put that man on Front Street like that, you know?
What?
You didn't put that man's business out there.
Because now he's got all these new lanes, you know.
Still in for a few more rounds.
Exactly.
You can't judge me. I don't lose balance. Yeah, sometimes some banks I judge that do lose, though.
All right, so the order's gonna be case and then the criticism.
Y'all got it? What's on the internet?
Good so far, we got it.
Y'all good?
Our affirmative is about the way in which the Academy produces particular ways of narrating Black life and narrating Black sexuality, particularly in the context of Black men, the way in which Black men were raped on the slave plantation, the way in which their bodies were used as a form of protection of white women. This is our second piece of foster evidence, a critical discussion of the ways in which they were, the ways in which white women in the past on the plantation were able to literally to enact their fantasies, enact their fantasies on black men and mulatto men, the ability to use the mulatto man as a fill-in white man because of their proximity to their skin being white was a vehicle for them to be able to literally use their bodies as a form of to imagine any form of sexual relationships. This is how white women were able to construct their understanding as purity in contrast to Black men as sexual objects. Our first piece of foster evidence discusses the way in which we need to challenge these views of having a hyper sexual Black man, and the way in which our academic discussion of these issues is a way of challenging the hypersexuality of Black male, but also the passive view of white women, which is constitutive of civil society, and whiteness is a global structure. Now RT evidence is a great discussion of speaking about the way in which tourism operates and how it parallels the way in which the way in which white women and other white members of the plantation society were able to literally sexually tour Black bodies, the same way in which people from the global north go to places like the Caribbean and Latin America to go and rent dreads, to go and get somebody that will fuck them in an exotic way, somebody that will eat the pussy in a new kind of form. This is the kind of shit this kind of things that are not discussed in the context of Black men within the Academy. That's why we need the Afro-Tax word reading practice. The moral evidence says that this is a way of engaging fluidly in understanding the holes in the Academy and the narration of particular instances in history. This is why we're a better form which that went down. The fact that there's no offsprings of black men being raped because black men do not get pregnant is an instance of how there's literally no space in the canon for black men to articulate the way in which sexual violence is enacted in them in the status quo, and in a historical sense, which means that we're a better form of getting down to the analysis of their alternative demands for structural oppression. Now, our next argument is that they're not answering the major uniqueness question, which is what is going on in the academy now. Until they can resolve the holes in the academy, and specific to the narration of black men's sexual exploitation, they are not going to be able to win this debate because we have a larger uniqueness question, which now onto the criticism. First off, this argument is laugh out loud funny because it doesn't get to the arguments that we're talking about. We're a criticism of humanism, specifically in the context of white women. Our second piece of foster evidence in the analysis I did on cases is a criticism of the way in which white civil society creates us as animals. Also, they said foster is a reason why our second piece of foster evidence is a reason why we are not a proximate cause, because we have a discussion of the way in which sexual violence against black men with connotation was a form of sodomy. It was literally a way of trying to fuck this child, even though there is a particular sexuality to having any being and having a black dick. There's still the particular animal, there's the animality, but also there's the anti-blackness that plays into it. There's a complexity that they're not really getting to, which our foster evidence takes into account. All of their scholarships protect their Jones evidence in the context of desire about people of color being able to eat meat. The shit is hella fucked up because people in the hood don't have enough money in their food stamps to do enough for them to be able to buy all the vegan or organic shit that these BC students can afford. This is the kind of shit that's problematic with the anthropocentric studies and anthropocentric studies in the argument in general, which is it doesn't take into account the material reality of lived people's experiences and people of color, which means that there's a dissad to the way in which their performance can be implemented because it's always from their subject position and never allows to take into account the ethical dilemmas and the way in which colonialism literally forces you to make horrible decisions. Like families probably don't want to buy meat, but when it's only $5 to buy a breast of chicken, when it costs $15 or $20 to buy things like quinoa, it's gonna be impossible for you to feed the entire family off $80 of food stamps a month. This is some shit that they will never be able to do. This is why our analysis, and we are a better form of the alternative, which is a discussion of the way in which structures of systems operate. This is why we do their half better. They don't even do any of their half. We have a history disadvantage is that they don't discuss the history of any of the structures of oppression. They just read one piece of evidence which talks about the way in which factory farming works, and then one evidence about pre-middle passage. None of this shit actually discusses the intricacies of how farming happened at a micro level. We're discussing the intricacies of how slavery and sodomy and that kind of violence happened at the micro level. In a historical context, which justifies the permutation. Also, this entire criticism is a form of decentering the conversation and decentering bodies of color being able to speak for themselves. This is like when people on Fox News are discussing the shooting of Trayvon Martin, the shooting of the killing of Eric Gardner, and then when people start talking about things like black violence, this just perpetuates the criminality of black folks because we're always criminal within the context of anthropocentric study because there's shit that we just can't get out due to our material conditions, which means that we are never able to discuss what and how violence is enacted on our bodies without first having to discuss how violence happened to things like animals. Also, they are not even trying to engage us. It didn't even flow the 1AC. This is a performative contradiction because none of their analysis, that was not done at the 1AC, that was just done now. None of their analysis is even conducive. They were not even reading the cards. This is the kind of lack of engagement that we're talking about in the academy. This is the uniqueness question posed at the top of the 1AC now. Now, therefore, there's armchair philosophy disadvantage because there is disconnection between their bodies and the soul. They're the Cartesian duality because they never discuss the way in which white males are complicit within the structure of anthropocentrism and white supremacy. They never engage this with media, which means that their discussion is always happening from a neutral point of observation that historically have been parasitic to bodies of color. The way in which white males always narrate the world from their point of view is one that is inherently fucked up, and their narration is already grounded in forms of anti-blackness, forms of patriarchy, and forms of heteronormativity that are screwed up. I did all of this analysis before. This is why the permutation is a better idea because we're a better discussion of all this shit shit that their Spiegel's evidence talks
All
about.
of the evidence is also about black people, not black people in Latin America.
Yeah, also, there's a disadvantage to the way in which their scholarship is stuck in the global north, which is a form of way in which the academy produces violence because we never theorize places like Latin America, which means that they are inherently exclusive, but also never get to deal with the complexities of our affirmative. Now the K empowers white elites to objectify non-humans as Stephen Best in 12 animal studies, academic proponents not only advocating the science institutional constraints and intense normalization regimes, the quality of conformity, the success of animal studies in the academia, passivity implications of anti-speciesism, the academy domesticates the animal standpoint. There are no expectations of coherence between theory and practice. Animal studies has been co-opted and contained by hegemonic norm and academic institutional complex by insurrection, institutionalized versus rules, bowing to the peer pressure and bureaucratic surveillance, the coming of the detachment abstractions and other technical using practical commodities and other factories and specialized in producing data, permanence, pro-financial control, imperatives, and irrelevance of crisis today, fidelity, and pro pseudo, objectivity, and the Joe-like detachment, essentially theoretical abstraction, the foreign feeling of the neutrality only serves the interests of social elites and corporal and corporate explorers. Now there's Spiegel evidences in the context of the ways in which countless animals die at the hands of things like science. We also heard a discussion of the way in which bodies of color die at the hands of science, the way in which the Tuskegee man and the syphilis test were conducted on bodies. This is the kind of things that we need to look at in the way, the reason why the reputation is the best step, because even if they win any root cause claim, they're not doing anything in the surrounds to theorize a new understanding. We're the only ones bringing a new discussion about the way in which rape and institutions of power work. This is something that is new to the academy because it literally is under theorized in different spaces.
So how do we not theorize how institutions of oppression are created? Like, that was the last thing in your speech. How does that?
You don't, I said that you don't theorize like in terms of like the practice of it. You just like speak about the general like anthropocentrism exists, there's violence done onto animals, that's fucked up.
Well, it
You
seems
should care about it, the black body in that discussion. Well, I'm saying that you need to discuss it in specificities. We're discussing in specific instances like Haiti, where there's literally like black boys being sold to like these white women that come on cruises so they can fuck them in hotel rooms and nightclub practices. These are specific.
So your argument is that the permutation is better because you contextualize that?
No, the argument is that the permutation is better because we are better analysis. This is what was in cross-sex. You need to stick to that shit because I asked you that question on purpose.
Oh, okay. So on the best argument, what's the warrant here for why it is that white elites dominate animal studies?
Why? The objectivity and the detachment, the fact that anyone can abstract from the point of like a specious, like a scholar, because everyone believes that like, you know what I mean? Like nobody has the embodied experience of anthropocentrism as exactly an animal. So that means that when you're theorizing for it, you always are theorizing it from a detached point of view, which means that you narrate it through your own subject position and whatever like biases and privileges you have in the world. And as a white man, your biases and
Isn't that
privileges.
precisely the thing that we're criticizing? The fact that we don't attempt to theorize from.
My man, you're wearing other shoes.
I don't know what you mean. Like the critique is attempting to
Yo,
theorize.
right down your flow, that should be an argument actually. You want to highlight it? Yeah, I'm saying you're not about your politics, which that's a disadvantage that we made. Like,
Okay. Can you explain the academy arguments?
The academy argument is that there are holes in the academy, and we act like the ocean and fill those holes throughout the academy.
So are you using that as like a role of the ballot framing argument? Like that it's the debate becomes about who best resolves these issues in the academy?
I mean, I centralize that, I guess, like our. Yeah.
Okay, then I guess the question is what is your role of the ballot framing, I suppose?
I mean, the better debating was done live. That is our role with ballot framing. We don't think that like he needs to make any ethical decision. I think it's just who did the better debating. Because like either way, you still gonna you're still gonna be pretty oppressive. You're still gonna be wearing leather shoes and shit like that.
You're wearing leather shoes too, what does that do?
Well, I'm not like I didn't bring up like animals die because factory farming and then it's like for me if I read my app and then wore a black man's
You just
penis
said that
bracelet.
better debating, which should be the locus for the judge making their decision, and then you're bringing the questions of privilege into debate. So what is it? Our social location?
Yeah, I can debate about your privilege. That is what I've been doing.
Okay, that's
We'll continue.
Why didn't you leave that out? Did I ever say mine? We'll tag them both in there.
Does you know it's Ken Wine, he's just saying Ken Noah so he can sound like a black man?
Would they kick you out of the debate?
So what now?
I'm gonna come sit next to us.
I'll take them.
But now you're not
Yeah,
gonna speak for
I-
it, though.
Oh.
Okay, what else? I'm not watching.
Wait, what just happened?
Whatever. We need to talk about that. That shouldn't happen.
Ben!
Do you know what happened?
What?
No, I don't know what happened. Oh, you got some of my shit?
Yeah.
She just keeps telling me.
That's what he said. But I don't really know why I understand it.
That's why.
It was probably the white person shouldn't win the debate, so the white person won the debate. Save months.
Y'all better not be misquoting Charlotte because she's gonna tell me tonight if you did. So yeah, then you're gonna be in trouble.
Wait, we actually meant to say Rebecca.
You realize Ben has the sites, right?
Yeah, like I'm like, you're not sketchy, just all other.
Why did I marry you to run?
She got kicked out.
I mean, I think she
What
did
did
the
you
White people problems.
I kind of have an answer to that shit.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I feel like that's stupid. She's still gonna be outside, bro. She's still gonna be
Might help me. Say mom. You could say mom.
Wait, what just happened?
I don't know, but we're about to do funny ass shit.
So I wouldn't have had more information from you, but the round next door is filled out and they are now arguing about the information.
720.
He-
I have to flash and switch over.
Wait, what?
They apparently made some argument about whiteness, and so he kicked his partner out.
Oh, man.
And
Savon kicks Miriam?
That's what's going on right now.
Who are they debating?
There's
Oh, shit.
I shouldn't have debated Rutgers, but I don't know for certain.
Oh.
But I just walked by and I heard, I kicked out, what the fuck more do you want me to do? Oh, that's what happened. I'm just gonna listen across, I'll see y'all later.
Give me an update. Judging that debate. That was cool.
Right.
Sorry, my glasses are off. I literally couldn't see what was going on here.
All right, it's gonna be the case, and then,
You have to jump.
yeah, what, he's facing all.
He's making the jump while they're giving the number.
Damn. They didn't touch my hands, so.
Trying to catch.
So by the laws of the NFL.
Case then, so just case or?
So the link debate's gonna be on case, and then, the answer page where he makes the, first argument about the alt, is gonna be going down from there. The perm and framework will be in the one.
So the K link is going to be the case page?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the link debate on the case page.
Okay. Something else going on? Somebody's recording that, right?
So the other partner had to leave for some reason.
Sounds like one debater kicked out the partner because she's white.
Oh, wow.
Because the other team probably said something about white women, white people being in a debate.
I see.
Talk about 2AC
He
strategy.
just walked off with Mary. Y'all got the jump?
I'm still putting it up, so.
When he was sitting there looking like he ready to fuck, I was like,
I'm just always ready to. Ready to play. So wait, you said case.
Case. and
case
then-
versus where the wing debate is moving,
Yeah.
and then
And then the answer page where he answers back. Okay, for sure. Is everybody ready to roll?
Yep.
well, yeah, when he talked to that before.
Oh, of course.
Hold it up during
Hold it
cross.
up. Okay, after those.
You bounced it, Lenny.
I did, I'm sorry.
So I picked myself as jump drive.
The impact of anthropocentrism is never-ending violence. The two politically easy cards that were read in the 1AC make the argument that this will the perpetuating hierarchies just leads to never-ending problems and modes of politics in which we recreate the harms that we try to solve for, because there will always be hierarchies and there will always be problems. Only eliminating all the hierarchies and reducing ourselves to consistent with the animal solves for the violence of the animals and the violence that we create against other people. The alternative shatter civil society, as we understand it, and opens up the possibility for a whole new capitalization. We don't think about exclusion, and we don't think about we think about hypersexualized violence that the 1AC tries to critique in the context of how can we even the playing field. Well, women eroticism are a bunch of things that the 1AC tries to solve for. They don't have a tangible solution to that. The alternative is the only tangible solution, because ending the hierarchies and coming to a consistent world through anthropocentrism shatters a whole new ontology that starts in 2011. Reorganizing the mode of production for one animal exploitation provides the ontological potential for a radically new human subjectivity relationship to the world. We have the opportunity to eliminate the human-animal caste system together with its rituals and continue to underpin sexist, racist, classist, and other forms of stratification in the present. We have the technology potential to reorganize our mode of production in a way that we can eliminate our violence against the other sentiment creatures by founding our society as unsystematic violence like other animals who hurt our own species, being in the process by deforming our human capacity and empathy for the human suffering who have been animalized. Now, this argument is very difficult, so I'll explain it for a long time. The alternative is a process of forgetting, not forgetting the 1AC, but forgetting how our bad hierarchies and forgetting the bad parts of society and leveling the playing field. There are three link arguments. I'll do them right now. First is the Jones evidence out of the 1AC. It says that black bodies are both complicit and oppressive. They eat the flesh of animals. They regard the animals as lower, which proves that it is the root cause of all violence, because all social groups and all social organizations do it. Everyone does it. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, or Chicano. Now the Puglisi evidence goes unresolved. It says that Western societies closely parallel these speciesism even before chattel slavery. It goes back to the Greek times and saying that it makes the reference back to Greek times and before chattel slavery, that we looked down to other people. We raped and pillaged women back in Greek societies because we saw them as lesser of ourselves. Older men would rape younger men because they saw that as a means to influence them and influence society. The same influencing in the speciesism caused speciesism as a lens from which you view politics. The only way to resolve that speciesism is the alternative, the process of forgetting. Now, the anthropocentrism is radically evil. It must be rejected. It must be connected to every form of oppression. That's spelled 2011. Anthropocentrism, subject like the radically evil industrial defined by Anthony as anthropocentrism is evil, logical exclusion to play an ontological distinction in human animals, the radically evil anthropocentrism and the implementation of unimaginable violence. Anthropocentrism has not been a war of the species, but a war on empathy. It works to eradicate the pity for the other. Auschwitz begins wherever someone looks at the slaughterhouse and thinks they're only animals. The denial of the significance of their suffering because she is only an animal, inextricably linked to the indifference because she is only a woman, a black, or a Jew, or so on. The bare life of on campus is everyday existence, everyday factory farm in the world. The violence against animals is perpetual violence, and they gave me a new link in the 2AC when they talked about the academy, life and sexuality. What do you think the academy was founded upon? It was a racist and sexist and classist hierarchy in which older men would have sexual relations with younger boys and have sexual relations and teach them and influence them. This hierarchy system is what we're trying to reduce. That is the Jones evidence from the 1AC. Additionally, he talks about his Foster evidence, but Foster evidence is a link because it tries to create hierarchies, these fantasies and these mulatto movements. They talk about the white man, but the foundation of why the white man oppresses the black man is that he sees them as something different, as something fungible. Now, the fungibility evidence is also a word in the Puglisi evidence. It goes unresolved in the 2AC. The concept of fungibility is something that only anthropocentrism resolves, which proves that we've resolved the root cause debate. Then we win the debate proper, because we eliminate fungibility in society. We eliminate the reason why people oppress other people. Why people go to Latin America to have sex with people they think are lesser than them. Why people go to Latin America to have fun, to rape children, to rape women in cruise ships like he's citing. Now, the 1AC was also decisively a link argument, because hypersexualization is a foundation of speciesism. The way that you relate to other people, you think of them as animals. Now, that's the precondition for genocide. Think about it. The first condition to genocide is thinking of something as different than yourself. Now, the alternative solves violence. The alt would decrease the likelihood of mass violence against all animals and all people. Johnson, 2011. Overcoming this reality principle will mean restoring subjectivity to current the gender Nazi schemas, which are drawn by the power powerful to justify the only non-human domination, but also the subordination of human beings, eliminating ritual animal domination, dramatically limit the symbolic and discursive weapons available to the powerful. They set up to justify the violence and exploitation as long as these practices continue to progressive women's society and culturally
life and the kind of animalization of human right now. The framework arguments here, Ryan will get to these in the later debate, but I want to, in the 1 hour, but I want to point out a few things. In the cross-text, he says, whoever does the better debating, whoever creates the more rational worldview, the view in which you can just solve for the most oppression, we should win the debate. Obviously, anthropocentrism looks at more, is a greater lens to view the world and a greater way to prevent suffering. Now, the impact debate is decisively negative because their structures of oppression will create hierarchies that will result in zero policy failure, because even if you put black studies and diaspora studies on the same plane as other studies in the past, you will still try and create hierarchies within the academy, which proves the only way to erase the harms of the academy is voting for the mode of forgetting politics and recreating a society that isn't based on speciesism. Now, the answer debate proper, I'm going to answer his arguments that he goes down the flow. He makes an argument about white males and no academic connection. The alternative solves this. They make an intersectionality argument and a permutation argument. Ryan will make this very clear in the 1 hour. The alternative eliminates the alternative solves intersectionality because it ends all hierarchies. It's a progressive social movement that puts everybody on par with each other. So it eliminates the necessity of the perm and proves that we win a 1% risk of the link argument, and the alternative does something positive. They are closer to the alternative. Only the alternative alone works because we need to eliminate all hierarchies. Additionally, we have a link to the academy that was done above my academy link analysis about why older men rape younger men and what Greek societies were founded on. Proves that before chattel slavery there were problems with the academy. There were problems with speciesism, which proves that speciesism were related to chattel slavery because it was about shackles, slaves, shackles, and binding people and taking them over. The same thing that you do to animals, the same thing that you do to slaves, which proves that their foster evidence, they keep citing the Tracy. The only way to resolve the warrants in the foster evidence is to vote for the speciesism concerns. Now, how humanity came to be the foster evidence, I answered this above. He just keeps pandering about the foster evidence. Well, you are going to need this, read this evidence and then read the Puglisi evidence and in the Jones evidence that we have cited in the 1NC. Jones 10 is specific to the legacy of slavery. Additionally, they make a DA to our performance. Ryan will get to the privilege question in the 1 hour, bro. The politics of privilege are self-referential because it will always be people constructing different ideals about themselves and always lying and creating reasons like, oh, if you wear brown shoes, or oh, you have a nice MacBook computer, oh, we should win the debate because we don't have as much money as you. That is a bad form of politics because it creates a circular system in which we don't know what to do in the face of crisis because we keep talking about our own structural oppression. Nobody knows that I might have problems, that Ryan might have problems, that these two men might have had problems. If we continue talking about it, we will never come to the situation where we can do anything. The history just said, well, the alternative solves this because we forget, because we don't necessarily forget the problems of chattel slavery, but we put everything on the same plane and we end speciesism, which is the precondition for why people manipulate history, why people manipulate other people, and solves for the structures of oppression that they isolate. Now, the permutation, you don't get the permutation. Ryan will make this very clear, and we'll make this very clear in the 1 hour. You don't get a permutation in a method debate because you pick the starting point. A permutation is a policy debate term to refer to permuting the plaintext of a 1AC in combination with a 1NC counterplaintext or 1NC advocacy. You don't get that when you pick the method, and you don't have a stagnant method. Also, additionally, the 1AC is a permutation in and of itself. It just aligns itself with trying to break out of the academy and trying to break into the African diaspora studies. You can't permute that because it's not a stable advocacy, which proves that if you give them the permutation, then they win the debate outright because our link argument's going away and they can envelop our link arguments. So obviously, it's just circular. Now, the armchair philosophy dissent doesn't make a lot of sense because if we win that the alternative works, then we create a tangible solution to why philosophy and why all studies are so messed up in the first place. Now, the permutation, he will get to that later. Now, the animal studies bad arguments are evidence is specific to speciesism. Animal studies are bad. It's the best way to create a tangible solution to why there are problems and why there are hierarchies in the world. Additionally, if you vote for the alternative, you align yourself with both animal studies, diaspora studies, and the problems in the world, which solves for the warrants in this link analysis. The Spiegel evidence, he says, answers his last argument and says that the foundation of gratuitous violence, additionally with the Niebert evidence, is founded on the idea that we can take animals and manipulate them in the same way that we manipulated slaves.
Okay, so what is your alternative?
To end all hierarchies and align ourselves with a worldview that puts everyone on the same plane.
Okay, that sounds cool. How do you do that?
Well, the 1NC evidence talks about...
no, how do you do that? Like,
how do I do that personally?
Yeah.
One, I have made steps to become a vegan. I have made steps to make my family
so you're like,
less
you're
around meat, less thinking in terms
no,
of
but how do you
hierarchies.
said you stopped eating, you started consuming less meat, but how does that literally deconstruct all the
Okay,
systems
well,
of
let's
hierarchy,
say-
like
okay.
your evidence indicates.
Okay, so this is we're going to get to this question in the later rebuttals as well. This is a method debate. If we win, our approach to the world is better than yours, and we win a link argument, which is a reason why your approach to the world forgets something, omits something, or isn't productive, then you
okay,
vote
but
for
what
us.
is that
Because
approach?
the alternative.
Okay, when does that approach happen, and what is that approach?
That approach is the judge deciding that our worldview is better because speciesism is the explanation of why gratuitous violence occurs. The only
So
thing
whoever
that-
wins the root cause
Yeah,
wins the
because you
debate.
said in the 2AC, whoever does the better debating. If our worldview is better, and speciesism is the best explanation for why gratuitous violence and why aggression in the world occurs, and the judge votes negative with the understanding that they're forgetting.
So your
they're
Johnson, all
eliminating
of your
problems.
all of your solvency evidence and all of your Johnson evidence is in the context of reorganizing production. How do you reorganize the production of anything? Because the only people that are reorganizing the production is us.
Reorganizing,
Production of knowledge.
reorganizing production is coming to the understanding that we're complicit in violence right now. That violence that we create against animals, the violence that we create against other people is seeing them as animals. We eliminate that by ending all hierarchies. That's the alternative.
How? Okay.
It's a way of thinking about the world.
Okay. Cool. Why are hierarchies in the academy bad?
Hierarchies in the academy.
Mhm.
The best example of this is when Lawrence Summers.
Why are they bad?
Why are they bad?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I give an example, or do you just want?
I just want to know why they're bad. I don't need an example.
Because they privilege certain academic concerns over others. I have an
Okay, cool.
example
So
of
then,
this.
why do you get to call racism a proximate cause?
Racism for approximate cause.
Is
Well, there
that
are a bunch of
rankings
there are a
based
bunch
on
of
proximity?
causes. There are a bunch of causes of violence in the world. But racism is a large.
No,
one.
why do you
One
get to
that-
call it proximate and literally determine, like,
When in the 2NC did I make an argument of approximate cause? I was talking it in a large structural
no,
sense.
one NC you made that argument.
Which piece of evidence?
Okay, fine, forget it.
I don't think
We're not
that.
gonna play this game. Can I know, like, how does this get actualized? Like, how does your methodology get actualized?
The judge actualizes their methodology by voting negative, ending all hierarchies, and aligning themselves with.
So, like,
the understanding
he has
that
a magic wand. Will Scott has a magic wand. They can end all oppression.
well, this is a method debate. Whoever does the better debating, if he comes to the understanding that we need.
Okay, so you're gonna defend like fiat then, right?
No, this is a method debate. It's our approach to the world. If the negative's approach to the world is better, then you vote negative.
Okay. What do you define the method as?
The way you come to an understanding, it's like metaphysics. So like the way that we approach the world is a better way to do it.
You need to know some stuff?
Yeah, I need to know this.
Okay. On Tuesday.
Use that magic wand. I gotta stop that first. Big old Will Scott. Trying to fuck with him.
Okay.
So wait, the entire last speech was on the case law, right?
No, I switched over to the Kate proper when I started answering your arguments about the alternative. We have to solve the academy.
You start with alternatives solves intersectionality, right?
Yeah.
So the order is going to be framework permutation.
My legs are crossing. Damn it.
More time on the bus.
Bye. Yo. Weight jump things.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have it?
I'm going to. Whoever has it. Just jump drive.
No. Oh, he has
Yes,
it.
I got it.
Wait, I don't have it.
Wait, did y'all give them the jump drive yet?
They have it, so we need it.
Yeah, that's what I was asking if y'all got it yet.
Oh, no.
You about to start a speech?
No, he was trying to
I was asking if everyone was ready.
Yeah.
Because I asked if they had it, you said yeah, they got it.
Oh, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I wasn't able to say anything.
Doesn't he look nervous? Doesn't he look nervous? I want him to relax. Look at him. Look at him. I'm gonna give you.
Damn, where my ballot at?
You look nervous.
Take some speaker points
Have
off.
fun. We're here to have fun.
My nervousness.
Does he look nervous? Yeah. He needs to have more fun.
It's okay then.
You debated in high school?
Me? No.
Just in college?
Just the last year.
Oh, word. Are we the first, like, black people who debated? Because I just was wondering why you were scared, so.
I don't know. All I know is he's violating the rules of debate as taught by his director. You violate the rules of debate.
It's really hard not to violate the rules.
Is this speech one and on?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty usual. We violate the rules of debate all the time.
Yeah. So the only genre we haven't broken is conditionalities. But we broke that like every other one.
One and on.
Yeah. Right. Starting from everything seen across examination that debates about who does the best debating with was contextualizing this, we should vote for the team that creates the best explanatory framework for oppression, the role of analysts to decide the best methodology for which they analyze and organize resistance against oppression, laid off in the position of analytical nuance and create great productive debates that move beyond either choices or social justice, move towards deciding between competing research methods if the conceptual basis of the affirmatives arguments are unclear or non-existent, or if the negatives should be preferred, you should vote negative as read in 12. Research specifying racial disparities, generated a distinctive narrative structure with respect to barometers, inequality, sexual health, incarceration, education. However, they cannot add too much beyond fleshing out this portion of relations which are predictive explanations from sources and saying motive scholars recognize the role of race playing around phrases like institutional racism. What are its conceptual foundations and premises? How can we address the limits of this perspectives on race, class, and the connections, especially understand capitalism, ideological reproduction? We identify several interpretive pathologies. Among these pathologies are juxtaposition that devolves into unproductive either or debates the dilution of class into a cultural category, sweeping characterization of what America's racial collective psyche, historical declarations that posit an unbroken arc of American racism, and sidestep careful dissection about racism involved and a tendency to shoehorn racial history into a rhetorically powerful and analytically proved story. Our concern is to the extent to which particular inequalities that appear as racial disparities are embedded in multiple social relations, how the dominant modes of approaching this topic impede the understanding of this larger picture. Got the card there. This research methodology, starting points to analytical frames are crucial in your framework effectuates the tools with which we analyze oppression. This read in 12. Our cult, for instance, stifling phrase is not a cult of racial exclusion of race constituent of capital. Rather, we advocate that and analyze the current situation, left analysts on to conduct problem-driven research to endeavor to the most plausible account of the phenomenon that stands in need of explanation instead of forcing it into a stifling, ready-made narrative. Doing so will break away from the analytical saw and widen strategic options and systems that raise the transcendent of social relations appears and class-based tied to read articulation and measure of social justice compared to neoliberalism. Now the permutations. I'm going to go down a couple of line items first. They make start with the white males with discussed white supremacy first in our narration. It's a comparative explanation. They can show us bad, so it's not ingrained in white supremacy. Also, we're confronting our anthropocentric bias, and if we're able to do that, our alternative arguments prove that this falls back. So they have to be beating that the alternative doesn't solve in order to win this argument. Then they said that our scholarship is stuck in the global north. They give nowhere for this argument. Also, the big evidence is specific genealogy of Latin American oppression. The context man for that's going to be on the permutation debate. Let's go there, or the proper. Permutation failed multiple warrants the alternative expression because that's all hierarchies of speech. There's no unique office for the affirmative or legal evidence indicates that all systems of oppression are dependent on the same essence. When we fracture anthropocentric phrase that entails removing oppression, this is evidence is in the context of Latin America. They should not get the permutation of methods debated for within our foundational approach to the world is better. Harrison made that argument in his last speech. I don't think I need to go any further with here. And the permutation is not possible. The alternative is a new starting point. It's not logistically possible to restart into the app at the same time. The permutation links and any remnants of anthropocentric advocacy create a strong enough link. The permutation will not overcome them. That means that if we put any residual links, they don't get the permutation. Third, they can see the multiple links from the one AC. The African deliberately chose to build an non-human world that is the valid evidence in the footnote DA. Don't fall for the absent-minded anthropocentrism, paternalistic politics, ensure the colonization of the non-human. That's the man-scan and tan-humanities. Our second debate to encompass non-human entities states prevailing approach non-human conservative remains within the anthropocentric humanities. This paternalism presupposes a hegemonic attitude of non-human and others. It implies human mastery presumes certain responsibility for non-human beings. People act on behalf of non-humans fulfilling productive contracts. Such an approach promotes a colonizing discourse in which the non-human is treated as fragile and victimized as other, and epistemology DA the apps is incompatible with the alternate terms case. It's best to the arguments these are justified human domination over animals. The same arguments used by imperialism, male oppression, the humanists upholding species use reinforced domination cannot access the animal standpoint and are in no position to advance viable liberation. That means if we're winning any weak arguments.
There's nothing to perm because
there's nothing to prove because they there's nothing to prove because they don't have the stable advocacy. You can add that onto the argument about why they don't get a permutation from the methods today. Sequence DA. Our biological reaches first, we must instruct human-centered knowledge first. This is key to avoid the replication of relations which make exploitation and colonialism inevitable. This occurred in 2K5. Writers recognize resistance to the process where things wind into looking back on anti-colonial literature. It's notable how human-centeredness, the writers who resisted colonialism had enough on their hands, dealing with the oppression of humans is dangerous, waiting for an environmental ethic court, the possibility that nations will take the path of exploitation as a way of capping off this match of colonialism from within. There are reasons why writers focus on humans and exclude nature. 7 is the empowerment deity, ask them to embrace humans, flattens out difference and cast aside the specifics of species based on oppression and stand up perception move that disables the ability of the affirmative to empower the non-human. That's Buka and 2K9. To explain species reasons influence critiques of radical power taken up, critiquing animalization, the colonized, no, they're not animals. They are not animals. At the very moment they discover their humanity, they sharpen their weapons to secure its victory. Extending the conflation of race and species assimilates racial discourse into species discourse, flattening out the context to determine the use of animal figures and racialization. Even nuanced accounts of racialization take animalization as the base, fail to take animalization as the basis of racist anthropocentric species discourse, underline racist conditions, failing to address animals, reject the pluralism, lack of interest, and justice for the animal, resist simplistic comparisons of racial and species violence that continue to abound. That means that that's contextualized in the permutation evidence when they say that their advocacy can solve. And they can't capture solvency for their alternative. Their affirmation of agency is predicated on the same formation of the human-centered individual. That's particularly true with their focus on rationality. So the alternative is not an embracement of agency, but a loss of identity, that of the human, which is critical to transformation of our relations to the humans and nature, as Hudson 2K4. The superstition of the concept of the human essence based on political identity requires that we recognize the concept as the result of the alienation of human beings and their central living selves who must move past the abstract forms which recognize themselves and come to terms with the fact that we're natural central beings, humans who may be captivated process, objectified, recognizing the human is an abstraction that fails to fully describe what we are made of, defined in a way of understanding humanity that requires the natural low domination front of losing citizenship and freedom that affects everyone. This may create new means of organizing resistance across the particular divisions of society and our essence world animals might reside the possibility of redemption in the passage to species being may be experiences alongside any species being is not merely a positive shift in development of history is equally the absence of many of the features of humanity through which we have learned to make sense of the world. It's an absence of the kind of individuality and atomism that structure our world. The development of species being requires the class of the distinction between the human and animal, what we call the human, because virtually indistinguishable from the animal nature. The structural laws reveal is always suspect in the false division between national and political life, which are never truly separable. We are all as citizens of the state.
Now 7:30. New cards?
No. There may be one, but the one that I sent, the other one I didn't read.
So it's in the 2AC down?
No. Yeah. But then just be, where did you flow framer?
Just tell me where you're starting and I will go.
Okay, I'm gonna go on the case, and then I'm gonna go on the framework, and I'm gonna go on the case.
So case, framework, and then everything else in order?
Yeah.
Okay.
Case framework, okay?
Yeah. Alright, ready?
Oh, just there.
That'll be like the chapter off the table and a little short.
The magic will stop on.
Okay.
You're good? You tripping or something?
I'm good. You good?
The one AC and the one NC argue that can agree that the black is the non-human, but they are not articulating internally as to how they solve all systems of hierarchy. They just simply assert that the root cause doesn't make sense in the context of our versus our argument about Aphrodite exploring subjects and versus having particular experience that animals do not. That is the sexualization arguments that we're making first. Practices becomes constructed as hypersexual within the status quo. That does not happen to animals, so which means that this takes out some of the root cause arguments that the way that blackness was able to become criminal in the status quo is through a process of white womanhood, that the white woman was able to have sex with the black man and then have sexual relationships with the white man outside, and this is able to have her external desires put on to the black man, which means that they are not able to solve this impact, which is exterior to all of their arguments in the status quo. Now I'll go to a couple of arguments, but I don't think they have articulated a fundamental link to the affirmative. First, he says that we do not create a transaction solution, but that is not true. Except for free the more evidence that talks about this is key for Latino and black self-making within the status quo, that we have to have an interrogation of Afro-despite this status quo subject within the status quo. Now this allows for a DA to all of their arguments because they do not have a historical analysis of the way that black and Latino men within the status quo have been hypersexualized, and this is not included within the academy within the status quo, which means that the affirmative has to become a prerequisite. Now he makes a couple of links here. First, he says that black bodies eat and flesh within the status quo, but that is not a link. We are not a link, we're not a movement towards humanism, which means that we are not trying to make black people or Latino people more human within the status quo. We are attempting to recreate the notion of humanism, which means that they have not given you that recreation of humanism, which means that they only assert that they solve all hierarchies. But how is it that you do that? You have to create a new conception of what it means to be human, which means that is the reason why you vote affirmative within the status quo. Now, second, he says that he makes his anthropocentrism as evil argument within the status quo, but that is not also a link, and is not also an impact, which means that we have all of our affirmatives still there, which means that they're not able to solve for the sort of Afro-diasporic subjects that we are constructed within the context of black sexualization. Now let's go on to their framework arguments. First, he makes the argument that this is about a pragmatic solution, but our argument is that this is a pragmatic solution within the status quo because your politics is forgetting is not, doesn't make sense, and it turns the entirety of your framework arguments because you say that we have to forget within the status quo, which is not a pragmatic solution. We, as people of color, cannot forget our violence within the status quo because it is constantly reminded to us that the police violence, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, all of these things that we share on Facebook are constantly reminding us that we are subjects of violence, which means that we have to have a pragmatic solution to these things, which means that they are not what all of their evidence is talking about how having pragmatic solutions within the status quo. Now let's go on to anthropocentrism. Now he makes a couple of arguments, and we will extend our first argument is that they recenter whiteness in this debate, that they make black people criminal. Extend their Johnson evidence that talks about how black people in the status quo eat animals, which is one of their links, which is one of the links to this debate. We will make this a dissent because your anthropocentrism movement will always make black people criminal within the status quo. And I extend Raul's arguments about in the Twitty that talk about how people in the hood do not have access to the sort of veganism movement that you are talking about within the status quo because we cannot go to Whole Foods and buy $15 veggies. Actually, we will also have a new gentrification dissent to their argumentation because their veganism would allow for shit like Whole Foods to be constructed in our environment, forcing us to abide by vegetarian standards. Our argument is that this does not get to the materiality of people of color, that we have to, it's more cheaper for us to buy a whole bunch of lump sum of meat and to feed our entire family because that is the way that the structure of civil society has engaged within the status quo, which means that justifies a permutation. Now let's go on to this permutation offense. Our argument will be that you have conceded too many dissents in this debate, which means that it justifies the permutation. Now you can extend first the important articulation that I give about how people of color need political solutions that are integrated or are material. Now second, you can extend our global north dissent that they are articulated or warranted a historical analysis about how their alternative would function in places like the Caribbean or Haiti, which means that there's a global north dissent to all of their arguments. Second is that the the permutation is not, the permutation just says that we do not have a plan within the status quo, but our argument is that because you read this Johnson evidence that talks about the criminalization of black bodies within the status quo, that means that it justifies the permutation because you need the act to stop that criminality of blackness before we engage in anthropocentric and lupocentric movement, which is the reason why and the affirmative becomes a prerequisite. Now let's go to, he makes his argument about a footnote DA, but our argument is that we are not a footnote. Now he says there's a sequence DA and sequence in DA that they have to come first, but our argument is that the criminality of blackness needs to be solved first within the status quo. Now their arguments are able to solve the fundamental premise of the affirmative, which is about the hypersexualization of the black bodies within the status quo and black bodies in Latin America. What does removing our hierarchies look like? Our argument is that that is not pragmatic within the status quo. And you have to remember in the status quo, all of or some more evidence is talking about how you have to have an interjection of black diasporic knowledge, not forgetting, because which means that they're not forgetting, which is the opposite of the entirety of what they do, which means that they cannot solve the app. They cannot solve the entirety of the app in this debate because our argument is all about articulating the violences that diasporic subjects exist within the status quo, because forgetting in the academy is actually what is causing the violence, which means that we are impact turning all of their forgetting arguments because we are a better internal link as to how you are able to solve all of the hierarchies of the status quo, because you have to have this discussion so that people can theorize and theorize, so then we can do away with hierarchies. You have to have a discussion of power first before you do away with hierarchies. Perfect.
Case term framework.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah. Okay. Case term framework.
Okay. So what's the lowest, 0 or 1?
They're half points, so you can do 0.5.
Half points?
No.
You'd be like, oh, I fucked up last round. Case term framework? Or framework term?
Term framework.
Okay.
All right. Is everybody good?
Yeah. They've conceded the Johnson evidence proves the alternative assaults case. The Johnson evidence says reorganizing modes of production, i.e. ending all hierarchies from animal exploitation towards the ontological pretension for radical new human subjectivity, the relationship to the world, no link to your forgetting offenses. In the process of forgetting that we create a new human subjectivity, one without sexist, racist, or classist views, it's a form of epistemic multiplism that allows us to create a new conception of society that solves for the harms. We don't forget Diaspora studies, so no link to your arguments about forgetting all of the harms of the 1EC. We create a new human subjectivity, a new way to relate to the world that is consistent with anti-speciesism movements, understanding that the flesh that we eat is deeply problematic, which solves for all the case. Now there's a dissent to only doing the affirmative, which proves that only voting negative is the best situation at the end of the round. They will always distort future being. They will always create future hierarchies because there will always be hierarchies in a world in which we don't confront our problems with speciesism and confront our problems with the exploitation that surrounds us. The exploitation of the status quo, only creating a new human subjectivity solves for this problem. That's the Johnson evidence, which is the most excellent because the evidence is on fire. We distort speciesism being. We deform what it means to be human, which proves they deform what it means to be human, which proves they make violence inevitable. Now I'm only going for a couple of link arguments and explaining them more. You should prefer tangible, well-explained link analysis to the rapid-fire 2AR that you're going to get. If it's not explained or you can't trace it back to the 1AR, then don't vote them for it because everything that I'm about to go for was both in the 2NC and the 1AR. I'm going for the Pugliese link argument. It's both a link impact and proof that they are wrong. The problems with slavery, the root cause of violence, and they are parallel of the treatment of animals, shackles, branding, stalking, stalls and pens, and biopolitics is informed by a parallel of history of speciesism that extends back to the very establishment of human civil society as promised on animal enslavement. It's the socialization of human culture, which proves that even if we confront the problems of diaspora studies or come to an understanding of how the 1EC relates to the world, if we don't get back to the reason why Western society is so messed up, the reason that we see people in such a different light, we will always recreate those problems because we will always look at people in different ways. Now the anthropage proper, the Johnson evidence, I'm not going for it. It isn't offense for you because we don't say that black people are violent. Now that isn't a dissent to our critique because we don't make black people criminal. We just say that black people eat meat. Just because white people eat meat, everyone is complicit in the violence. No link to your argument. Additionally, you have access to becoming an anti-speciesist. You can create local co-ops, small farms, farmers markets. You can plant your own seeds. It doesn't have to be expensive Whole Foods. This argument is reductionist. I don't even go to Whole Foods because I can't afford it. My family jokes that it's called whole paycheck because it will make you poor. Gentrification doesn't make any sense because you can grow your own food. Seeds cost next to nothing. The argument that you make about eating lump sums of meat just because you're obsessed with speciesism and integrating to meat is obviously a link argument for us. Now the case arguments, the 1NC and 1NC agree. Yes, that doesn't make any sense. That's a claim without a warrant. And he says that we don't have an internal link to violence. Our internal link to violence is the Pugliese evidence and the Johnson evidence to prove that you obscure the original human-animal divide. The distinction, you blame it all on chattel slavery and diaspora studies. We blame it all on the fact that people were representing each other in different lights in Greek civilizations. Men raping younger boys, men raping women because they saw them as lesser creatures that they should take advantage of. Now the black hypersexuality arguments flow negative because the reason hypersexuality occurs, the reason people go to the Caribbean, and the reason that the alternative solves for the Chicano studies is the process of differentiation. People thinking that you're less of yourself is based on the speciesism argument of shackles. We need to do this person, we need to take this person somewhere, we need to auction them off, we need to brand them, we need to put them in a stall, we need to take control of them because they are a problem of us. This is the concept of fungibility that the back end of the Pugliese evidence gets to. The affirmative doesn't resolve fungibility, but only the alternative does. There's a huge fungibility dissent to the permutation, which proves that only voting negative creates a new human subjectivity. We go through historical analysis. All our cards are based on the historical analysis of time, so no link to that argument. Now, we are complicit in evil. The alternative solves for this when we end all hierarchies and create a new human subjectivity. Anthropocentrism is evil. The affirmative doesn't do anything to resolve it. The permutation is the alternative is the only way to get out. The permutation proper, one, it doesn't make any sense. You should prefer well-explained analysis. The flippiness of the 1AR should not be regarded well here. The footnote you just got, that's Damascus 10. The affirmative's approach to non-humans is conservative. It's focused on human mastery and the ability to create new identification agencies and functions, colonizing discourses, papers over the victimization of animals that cannot form egos. The second one is sequencing. Sequencing is key. That's Curtis 2K5. They did not articulate the 1AR anyway in which their policy politics disrupts human-centered knowledge and values like the consistency identity. We cannot wait for anti-anthropocentric ethics or our beliefs to be colonized from within. They will try to argue their politics can result in anti-anthropocentrism, but this is empirically denied because, well, every historical resistant movement took steps forward for humans. Animals are only treated as we're subject to factory farming, etc. This proves that if we win the existence of anthropology to recreate the oppressive hierarchies, we are a prior question. We are a better way to relate to the world. That believes the evidence. Additionally, their epistemology is incompatible on the link level because they just say we need to align with diaspora studies. Well, yeah, you're forgetting the lesbian studies. You're forgetting a bunch of other studies. Only NUL hierarchy solves for everything. Empowerment, embracing the animals on a nuanced process. Their power bridge threatens out difference. The colonized know how they're not animals. Completing racial species discourse assimilates in logistics of radical discourses, flattens out context that determines the use of the animal. The oppression treated differently. Additionally, the permutation is severance. Hello, you did not answer this in the 1AR. You don't get a permutation because this is a method debate. Severance is a voting issue because it creates puts the F in a moving target and means that we can never get stable offense. The framework debate. We have a better approach to politics, a better approach to the world. He said in the 2AC that you have the best methodology. Yes, we meet their framework interpretation. If we have the best methodology, if you like our evidence better and you think the negative one was more persuasive, then you vote for us. The politics of forgetting. I made this delineation at the top of the flow. It isn't forgetting everything. It's forgetting and creating a new human subjectivity in which we solve for the problems of diaspora studies, Chicano studies. The reason we create a pragmatic solution, which is putting everyone on an equal trading playing field that solves for the problems that Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown had, because we create a new way to relate to the world. Thank you.
535. prepping money. 0.
This internet thing though.
Do what?
This internet situation.
Yeah, it's all.
I feel like I'm gonna say that like if you go to the bathroom before the last rebuttal and you run out of breath, I should start this next tournament. If you go to the bathroom before the last rebuttal and you run out of breath, I'm starting your speech time taking it back.
Makes sense.
Or reduce a 10th of speaker point for every 5 seconds.
Yeah, I don't understand why you're allowed to go to the bathroom before a speech. Because like right now is essentially prep time, and you just get to sit on the toilet.
I feel like you should go facilitation break.
Yeah, but I mean, right now it's sort of the status quo norm, and I'm against it. My judge philosophy, so.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
Yeah. I'm just saying. In the future, I'm putting something in my judge philosophy that doesn't allow that. People to go to the bathroom right before 2 a.m. What's that for? You're good. You're good. No, you're good.
I'm not. I didn't steal.
I know.
Oh shit! I didn't even get that. Oh, shit about pants. Like part of making the changes. Judge philosophy. That's good.
I'm considering it becoming the first one. This is just becoming a trend across debate. My teams do it. Everybody does it.
We will start precedent.
Where are you gonna start at?
Case always. Framework. Then I guess like. Okay, I'm sorry. Case. Okay, this shit.
Okay.
So it's just case, and then like where the arguments like kick out of Johnson stuff, which I think is that's where he gets the off case.
Okay.
And then framework, term.
Okay. Those are the 4 pieces of sections of paper. Only 2 pieces of paper, 4 sections of paper. Okay. All right. Cool.
Not getting to the case goals, going to cost me the debate arguments are affirmatives about the way in which, specifically in the context of sexual studies for black men, they are historically excluded, under-theorized, and under-narrated in the academy and how there's never a discussion of the way in which rape operates and the way in which sexual tourism operates against black men because of the way in which gendered stretches occur throughout the academy. This is the argument that Lenny and I have been making every single debate has been consistent that there's a uniqueness question that is begs the question of how do we discuss the specificity of violence done on somebody. They're going to have to win that. They're going to have to win that. Not discussing the specificities is a good thing, which they have not proven, which means that we get 100% risk of the 100% risk of the affirmative. Now
cease to exist. They don't have any specific internal into what happens on the plantation, how you literally are able to fuck these black bodies. Their only discussion of this rape and this kind of violence is the discussion of the way in which Greek teachers used to have sex with younger boys. This shit is not comparative. We're talking about a specific kind of libidinal consumption of black bodies. We're talking about the way in which we exoticize these bodies and hypersexualize them. There was no hypersexualization of the young male boys. At least they have not done any analysis regarding that. This is rather an example of how they centralize whiteness, and this isn't a new argument, but rather it is a performative way in which they have been actualizing all of the things that are wrong with the world. Now, Zamora thinks that this is a way of having self-definition, a way of being able to being able to challenge the way in which global white supremacy and anthropocentric structures create narrations of people's bodies. This is why we flow like the oceans to the spaces that are empty. They don't flow like the ocean. They're rather static and never get to the underlying issues. This is why Afro-diasporic reading practice is necessary, because within different academic spaces and diaspora studies, there is not enough of a discussion of the way in which the discussion of black men is excluded, the way in which sexual violence happens. Now, the kicking out of the Johnson evidence. This is another reason in which another way would say perpetuate particular instances of whiteness. Now, Lenny doesn't explicitly say extend the piece of best evidence, but he does make the argument that we need to have pragmatism, which I don't think they're coming to grips with. This was the underlying warrant in the best evidence, which is critical, and which is critical here, because literally it says, a quote, that anthropocentrism is all theoretical abstractions, mostly in the academy, in the way it's deployed, the way in which it does not, it produces scholarship that is irrelevant to the crisis of today. These are specific lines from the evidences with the way in which they are irrelevant. The magic wand that you have and are supposed to swing at the end of the debate does not exist. This is why we need pragmatic ways of approaching the world to be able to get past these systems of oppression. The impact to this is that it just perpetuates forms of whiteness. It's just armchair philosophy that never gets actualized in the real world. Now they see that there's a possibility for local things like local and local call. First is that all of this shit is all of this shit doesn't answer the way in which blackness works in the specificity. You're not advocating any of this, so you don't get any credit for it. Now I see that they have the internal into slavery. I think I did the analysis about finessing the way in which they may access the plantation, but they don't actually what happens on the plantation. Next, they say Greek civilization already answered. They see that there's a process of differentiation, the concept of fungibility. Literally, we have been discussing fungibility in the entire debate, the way in which in the academy, black men are seen and used as criminal in particular ways, and not even discuss the way in which violence is done onto them, specifically the way in which they have criminalized the black body. Saying shit like, I'm going to kick out of the Johnson evidence, which we have labeled as explicitly anti-black, is an independent reason why you should reject it, because it just proves the way in which whiteness and academic spaces tend to always try to monopolize the conversation and be inherently exclusive. Now, this Johnson evidence is the same kind of criminalization. The way this criminalization, they never get to the fundamental reason. They just say that when they say they're like, oh, we only say that black people eat meat, and then the later part of the floor, they literally say that this shit is evil. This is how fucking criminalization works, that you can never move out of this catch-22 where black people don't have enough money. Just because you also don't have enough money to not buy meat doesn't mean that you have to criminalize these bodies in your academic discussion. You cannot keep out of this. Is justification for the permutation, because it means that the permutation is literally necessary. The affirmative is a necessary component of attacking the way in which anti-blackness perpetuates itself in your approach to after what's it called?
137.
Oh, in your approach to anthropocentrism. Now they say that that they reorganize modes of production. First off, orders bodies, and the way in which the academy orders bodies, they have not done anything. In Cross say we're clear, the only reorganization that happens is the way in which the wand swings in the air. Now they say that they are a new relationship to the world. There is no new relationship. All of these arguments are indicative of something that they are not doing. They are just trying to figure out.
They say that they create a new conception of humanity. That app needs to do that because the black is a non-human subject.
Yeah, like black is a non-human subject, which means that we are always already a discussion of anthropocentrism, something that they are omitting. Now, the politics for forgetting argument is going to be be also damning here, because when they say that we need to move to this new ontology, that normally will have to mean that we'll have to leave things like our culture and our blackness behind. We will never be able to bring these things to the future. This is the way in which forgetting happens. Also the way in which we will not be able to discuss the specificity of slavery in specific instances and places like Latin America is a unique reason why you need to reject them. Like, all of this debate is going to come down to like the question of what's happening in the academy and whether or not they actually do anything.
What was it? And I said it as he turned around and hear me, so now I've been like hypothesizing about like.
I don't think we could lose argument against something like this.
Are we good?
Mind if we have the copy?
Wait, what?
Maybe that's in the hallway. I'm gonna just highlight it. Okay. So this debate is really interesting at the end. I mean, I think there's some very good things and very bad things happening on both sides. Me and I vote half. It's, in the end, basically, it comes down to me of do I vote on the pragmatism or the root cause, and I'm not really sure which to privilege. Looking at the flow, it seems like both of you are doing a very good job of sort of explaining your vision of each world. Of like, this is the root cause of things, we should sort of imagine and almost, you don't say fiat, but function fiat, like the end of all hierarchies. Versus they're sort of making this kind of pragmatic argument that's like, we need to look at what's actually going on in the real world. Like, Indian speciesism doesn't actually solve for black people being hungry and all of those kinds of things. And I go back and forth about 4 times, and it sort of confuses me in the 2 and R, because you like start extending the Johnson evidence and you're kicking the Johnson evidence, and I'm not totally sure what you were doing. So I end up looking at Johnson, and I think you all can make this decision on the me if you point this out. But in both of the Johnson cards, Johnson makes a comment about how at one point it was necessary for humans to eat animals. If you make the argument that Johnson's wrong about that possibly not being true now, you win the debate. To be fair, it's in the underlying portion of the cards. But I think that's something you should be doing. So like, that doesn't really factor in, it's just something that stood out to me when I looked at those. But like, it pretty much just comes down to which do I vote for. And that's because I don't really see you making this as to their pragmatic approach other than they eat meat, but I think your answers to it come really late. I don't think there's really a great answer to they eat meat in the block. Like, I don't have like an on-point explanation of that. And you're not doing a great job of like why the root cause doesn't matter. So I'm sort of left 6 of one, half dozen of the other, and I end up defaulting pragmatism. It's just sort of the way I default. My philosophy is very much like, I like things to be real world. So in a world where the debaters aren't doing the work, that's the way I end up defaulting. So, questions? Sure.
I wanted to know how the 2AR could make the decision easier, because I see that you say you were going back and forth. But like, just a discussion, because I was trying to have the discussion of like the root cause or like the slavery as a structure as opposed to inside of slavery kind of thing.
Sure, I still don't think that necessarily addresses the fact that they're saying slavery and all of the things that you're talking about are structured and rooted in speciesism. Like, you need to say, look, no they're not, or look, even if they are, then this. Yeah. There's never that comparative moment. And the same is true over here when it comes to pragmatism. There's never that comparative moment between pragmatism and root cause. People are just going back and forth. And so I think that if you sort of have that comparative moment, where everyone just stops for a second, it's like, oh, this. Either side could have made this debate a fairly clean bed. Other questions?
What were your thoughts about the students? That was on the presentation.
I think it becomes irrelevant when it comes to when it's not, because the way I evaluate the debate at the end is not really about which comes first, because I'm not evaluating the presentation. Because I sort of evaluate, do I think that, because I think that they're winning, you're not really a pragmatic action. Like, you're sort of this other thing. They're winning that you don't really solve all the harms. But you're winning that pragmatism is really important, and you're winning the root cause, and so it doesn't really come to a sequencing question. I think if it had gotten to that point, it probably means you win. Because I think you would have been, because I think when it comes to the presentation, you would have been ahead. I don't really have an articulation of severance perms as a voting issue in the block. Nice try, but no. I do think that there is sort of an implication of the severance perm argument that had it come to the permutation, might allow you to reject the perm. So y'all got to be watching for that and just assume they're going to do it.
Yeah, I kind of was like, because I didn't think that there was an impact to it, so I was.
Yeah, I mean, you should still deal with it because judges will default to reject the perm if nobody's talking about it. So if this debate had come down to the perm, you very likely would have lost for that. Thoughts on that? Other questions?
How do you suggest we improve this strategy in the future?
I think you've got to be articulating why the root cause outweigh in the context of their pragmatism stuff earlier. Because I don't think that is really happening. So like, I think the strategy's not a bad one. I think you've got to be careful about how far into the personal representations you get. Because I wasn't totally sure where this leather shoe moment was going to go. Because I think they were sort of going for like in-room representations are key. And I think that sort of could fit into the pragmatism argument. It's like, look, it's a question of real world shit. You come in here talking about these factory farms and all that, that's where the leather shoes come from. So I think you've got to be careful about how, like, I'm not sure how close this debate got. That line, you want to stay away from that line if you're not going to go for the full out or vegan reps. Also, like, because he makes sort of the Whole Foods argument that's like Whole Foods happens in 2AC. It gets fleshed out a little bit in the 1AR, but when you hear that, you got to be like, no, you got to shut stuff like that down early. Because especially when you're debating race teams, as soon as you hear them start talking about a white store like that, they're going to go for gentrification later in the debate. So you've got to see that and shut that down. Because like they hint at it, but they don't. That's what, especially this team likes to do. They like to hint at things, and like so they're in the 2AC, but they won't explicitly say it. And then when they blow it up in the 1AR, the judge's like, oh, that is in the 2AC, and it is. So you sort of got to be aware that they're going to do that. I think because you have a. You
heard me say that?
What'd you say?
I asked you if we did that.
And I was like, we didn't do that.
Yeah, you have an answer to this best evidence that you never read. I think it's like the bottom card in the 1NR that you never get to. You've got to make sure you answer that, like, even if it means you don't read the empowerment dissent. Because when they're reading a well-known Anthro author against Anthro, you got to come back against that. Because that's sort of where they start to be able to pull some of the spin out at the end of the debate, especially on the pragmatism stuff, and it gets conceded.
Did you like the connection between West and pragmatism that I tried to do in this way?
Yeah, that was good. I think y'all have to be clear about what you're going for. Also,
so if we had like extended explanations of the evidence in the 1MC about how we had to prioritize root causes and proximate causes, could that have been applied to the pragmatism argument?
Sure, but you would do that, and then you would explain why